So there's a small delay on my Orihime video and the Fullbring video, the Fullbring arc video, Execution arc, Lost Agent, whatever. So instead of that, I want to talk about the Thousand Year Blood War arc and a bit about. I don't want to ruin people's excitement, but I have. I'm getting the feeling that a lot of people are kind of overhyping uh, the last arc more than it a- actually should be hyped. Or how should I explain it? I feel like a lot of Bleach fans have amnesia what happened at the second portion of the Thousand Year Blood War arc and how it really didn't live up to expectations. And yeah, there's the possibility that some things will be changed or added in. The ending won't change. A lot of the stuff, like most of the fights, won't change how the story will be affected. So you are getting your hopes up for nothing, and I will go in detail on what I am referring to. On Reddit, I read somebody wondering why people think Bleach is the worst of the big three. I'm not arguing why Bleach is the worst, because for one, I don't think Naruto is that much better than Bleach. It has good arcs, but even if we exclude filler, the Shippuden portion is just. And it's really hard to argue for either, I feel. Like, Naruto had a longer, strong start. Both had a strong start, and both fall off later on. And yes, they do fall off. Many Bleach fans say it gets better for some reason lately. At least those on Reddit who are active. They are just a small portion of the Bleach fan base. And if you think about it, a lot of people just dropped Bleach. Like, it's not as big as it used to be. Maybe some people are still just came back for nostalgia. Maybe some have started to get some appreciation, because if you ask anyone back then what they think about the Fullbring arc, they will laugh. They will roast the shit out of the Fullbring arc. But these Bleach fans you see now, they think that's actually the best arc of the series, better than the Soul Society arc. Just sorry, I just can't. Considering what happens in Fullbring arc, it's not like we. I will keep that for the other video, because what I'm going to talk about the final arc and some of the issues that will also I will also address some of the Fullbrings. So prepare for spoilers if you didn't watch and intend to watch the final arc and don't want your excitement to be ruined or all the twists and stuff to be told. So let's begin with the good things before we talk about the bad things. So the strong start of the Fullbring, the final arc, not Fullbring, the Thousand Year Blood War arc, is that suddenly the enemies that always were hidden emerge. So what happened exactly? So suddenly some Aranka appears and he can use Quincy powers. Then you have Quincy, doesn't matter which way you want to say it. I will probably switch in between what I say. And so as Ichigo gets into a confrontation and that Arrancar with Quincy powers tries to do something with his Bankai. He taunts Ichigo to use Bankai, and whatever he tried to do, it fails. We will later find out that this medallion can steal Bankais, obviously. Not steal, there were also hints regarding that. If you read the manga at that time, it was kind of confusing. It was pretty much told in a few chapters they can use Bankai. In another, it was implied they can steal Bankai. Later characters thought they can steal Bankais. And at the end, yeah, they do steal Bankais, so it was completely pointless, completely confusing, and I think that twist kinda failed. But that's probably a translation issue, and sadly, that translation issue kinda affected the experience. But regardless, sequences showed they are quite a foe since they had pretty interesting abilities that we didn't see Uyu use, and I think that's one of the first things that bothered me about the final arcs, because these Quincy's don't fight like Quincy. Like, okay, you have the occasional uh, arrow throw or taking out the bow, but it doesn't feel like it's like what would be a good example? It kind of feels like, okay, they are Quincy, let's make them use something that Quincy do. Okay, they done it, now back to their unique powers, because apparently I get the feeling Kubo wanted these Quincy's to feel unique from each other, so each of them got special powers that don't feel like real Quincy powers. Even the Reishi manipulation. The only Quincy that felt like a Quincy in the final arc was Kurge, the jailman, Sternritter G. So it really felt kinda dumb. A lot of these new Quincy abilities will later foreshadowing question marks Ichigo's final heritage. Like, people say Ichigo's Quincy powers, yes, Ichigo's Quincy powers were foreshadowed, but to me it looks more like Ichigo's Kubo thought made some powers up and then said, okay, let's make that a Quincy power, and that will be a foreshadowing for Ichigo's later revealed Quincy powers. So it didn't. It felt like the opposite. Like the Kubo just gave him some shadow powers and stuff, so Ichigo can. There can be foreshadowed in question mark that Ichigo is part Quincy. Also, there was that one part where Ichigo Aizen told Ichigo that he is a human or a Shinigami, and even that translation part, that was kind of confusing too, and it felt like the point was to show that Ichigo is a real Shinigami and not just a human but that has hollow powers, and never intended to be a foreshadowing that Ichigo has Quincy powers. If you understand what I'm getting here, it's possible that was the intent, but I don't think that was a good foreshadowing. So Ichigo is now a Quincy, a hollow, a human, a Shinigami. Something that gets really annoying after all the things. I think this is what really bothered a lot of fans, honestly, saying, does Ichigo really need to be all of these things? And that's the same with how Zangetsu as a got retconned later to be just his Quincy powers suddenly. And yeah, there were a bunch of series regarding how Ichigo's powers really work. Things keep changing up, and I get sometimes also try to change things to twist the expectations of a reader, but if you do that over and over again, and that will happen quite a lot in the final arc, it really gets repetitive. Like, you can't trust you can't trust your intuition, you can't trust dialogue, because things keep getting retconned away. And like I said, this is what bothered a lot of people in the final arc. For example, Kenpachi Zanpakuto, it's supposed to be constantly released, constant release Zanpakuto. Turns out it was always in its sealed state. He figures out the name of the Zanpakuto, and after it releases, it changes its form completely. And later, when the other captains see, Byakuya says the line that Zanpakuto that was always in released form never existed in the first place. And that's supposed to sound clever, but you have heard that line so often that it just feels stupid. One of the many reasons why the final arc really annoyed people. The first invasion was really good. Like, I wanted to talk about the positives, but I switched to the negatives that early. Regardless, it was really good. Ignoring that the Quincy powers felt like now everyone has stupid, weird, nonsense powers, like I can shoot fire from my fingers, I can turn my skin in iron, in an iron plate, I can be super strong if someone yells my name, and I have the power over fear. Like, really? Like, you can say these are cool powers, but they don't feel like powers a Quincy should have. I expect, like, when I think about Quincy, think how Uyu fight. Uyu used. I'm talking about the negatives again. Okay, let me just try to explain why I think the Quincy powers don't feel well executed by the Sternritter, and I will just refer to the Sternritter. I'm not referring to Yuha himself, because I feel Yuha, despite being somewhat of a god of the Quincy and the master, his abilities should be the most different, is actually using Quincy powers cement almost like they meant to be. Like, he's the god of the Quincy, he doesn't need to carry an arrow or something. He can use them in a way normal Quincy shouldn't be able to use them. So I can look past that. But then you have Kurge. Kurge uses Quincy powers, like I said, properly, and with that I mean using the ratio around you to your advantage, using tools to fight, not just arrows, manipulating the arrows to move like you want. Like, they can maybe turn, you can prepare traps, like with the Seele Schneider and what was it called? That one with the pendulum where you put 5 Seele Schneider around the enemy and then drop some weird liquid. Like, I expect them to use various tools instead of um, power over fire, um, or imagination manipulation. Like they pretty much turn into Sampactulas Shinigami. Like it's not like their arrows have unique powers. They use unique arrows. Like the fire dude using fire arrows. He just shoots fire from his fingers. They are powerful, but that's why I feel the Quincy abilities are kind of vague, because they, like I said, they don't feel like Quincy abilities, but like random superpower abilities. Yeah, they do use arrows. They use a perfected form of Celestial, but it just doesn't feel the same. I feel the bones were more Quincy's than the Quincy's themselves in the final arc. Like you could say, retroactively speaking, that the new Quincy are just rip-offs of Bone, what the Bone's supposed to be, without duels. Except one guy pretty much uses a duel, and that being James. But nevertheless, what else? now, now I'm going to the positives, and we will stay in the positives for a while, because this is why why people are really hyped for this arc. Like when the Quincy's appeared, they apparently before the war they already killed their captain commander's second in command. After when the invasion happened, like they came out of nowhere, pretty much, which will be explained why they did that later on. They managed to defeat several Soul Reapers, apparently 1000. They completely turned Captain class Soul Reapers into jobbers. As even the Bankais couldn't help, because they can steal Bankai, so the enemy got their powers as well. And finally, the fight against the Captain Commander. The Captain Commander finally fell against Yuha's might after a pretty great fight. So Ichigo eventually arrived and they retreated, and from that point on the things already started to crack. First the Zero Squads came, but before that we find out that Bankais can't be repaired, which this will be something else that's pretty annoying. Know that the Bankai can't be repaired. Regarding the Bankai can't be repaired, apparently Ichigo's, if you remember that Ichigo's Shihakusho is also part of his Bankai, it makes me wonder if his outfit is destroyed, shouldn't it be possible not to heal it, since it's part of the Bankai? But I guess Kubo forgot that, but or it's just the core of the Bankai. Like Hitsugaya's eyes, if you break his wings he can't regenerate it, but if he breaks the sword he's holding while in Bankai, the Bankai itself is broken and can't be repaired. I assume that is how it is meant to be, but it's still kinda vague, because now you have to think about all the possible scenarios where characters have Bankais, and did their Bankai really break? Why is it like that, and so on. And how do you break this character's Bankai, for example? Like, it's just so weird, since some Pakudo don't change when they are in Bankai, Also, if they revert back to Shikai, can say, uh, can say, let's say Hitsugaya's, if he really releases his no healed sealed Zanpakuto, would it be broken? Like, it's just a mixed. It's, well, never mind. It since it's just applied to Ichigo and Renji and perhaps Ikaku, we can look past that, I assume. So the Zero Squad appeared, and the oh yeah, something else. Byakuya is apparently alive, and it was really built up that his death was really well built up, and then they backpedaled and ruined a really well executed death. It's not like I'm obsessed with characters dying, but Byakuya's death would have been a really meaningful moment to show, yeah, these Quincy are a threat. Yeah, Yamamoto died, but like this is a minimal loss. It's a big loss, but it's like this arc is sold as a war, and yeah, as I pretty much allude to, this is the next problem of the Thousand Year Blood War arc, the amount of death, and the same problem we had people had with the war arc as the fourth great ninja war in Naruto. Like maybe one important character dies in the war, not by the war, not indirectly. Like there will people die from the good guy camp, but that's either indirectly or they are just irrelevant because spoilers, even Izuru is alive and and he's supposed to be the first character to be killed by the Wandenreich. So what else? Yeah, why would have been Byakuya's death be impactful? And like, I think you can think of a billion reasons. For one, that he was Ichigo's first major obstacle to overcome, and it took quite a while for Ichigo to finally reach Byakuya and change him as a person, because meeting Ichigo is what changed Byakuya and turned the relationship between Byakuya and Renji and Rukia for the better. But like, Byakuya really owes Ichigo a lot, which is why he does a lot of things indirectly to help Ichigo, or with good intentions to help Ichigo. If you watch the Fullbring arc, which one of the positives is how Byakuya, despite owing Tsukushima a huge debt, so to speak, he still managed to overcome his that brainwashing to even kill Tsukushima for Ichigo, for what he has done to Ichigo, which he felt was unforgivable. Regardless, if we go back and look how, like, Byakuya was stripped of everything when when Ichigo appeared in front of him. He was at his weakest state, both mentally and physically. He was at his breaking point. He couldn't save his people. His Bankai got stolen, and the only one he could ask to stop Yuha is the person he didn't want to get involved in the first place, because he already owes Ichigo a huge debt, and he never felt like he was able to repay that debt. but at the end it just didn't meant to happen, I guess. And Byakuya surviving will have a few other problems with this arc. So we find out over the course of the arcs, in order to get the Bankais back, the Soul Reapers need to get some hollow powers. So they get these hollow powers and get the Bankais back and kicks the ass of the Soul Reapers, of the Stern Ritters. And Yuha apparently predicted that, but he didn't do jack shit about it. For some reason. I don't know why. We will find out why, but there will be so much hypocrisy regarding to what Yuha does that it feels really, really stupid. Because Yuha has a big weakness, which is if he pretty much lives off people killing each other. He has the ability Auswählen. The reason I misspoke myself is pretty much you hear the wrong pronunciation so often that you use it yourself. So if Yuha uses Auswählen, he can take the powers of other Quincy's whenever he wants. So he has the power to give people to fix issues both physically, mentally and whatnot from other characters, and when that character dies, that soul comes back and he gains certain abilities to fix his own disabilities. So Yuha is pretty much someone who is born with an insane disability but has the powers to fix others' disability, which at the end fixes his disability. So he can give powers and then take it back and gain more powers. And if he doesn't do that, he will revert to his retarded state again until someone touches him. So in order to survive, Yuha created pretty much this war by turning I don't know how exactly that works, but now if the Soul Reapers die, he gains their powers. I don't get exactly what it is, what he gains, but apparently Soul Reapers dying will also enhance his powers later on. So in other words, the war, despite Yuha hating fighting, apparently exists just to make him stronger. He doesn't care about the Quincy's and whatnot, and there will be more issues. So for him it doesn't matter which side gets stronger and weaker. He will always improve. So what is left, to be honest? So regardless, yeah, Quincy have weakness to hollows in some way or shape or form. So if you corrupt since Shinigami are linked to the Sanpakuto, if you hollow-fight the Shinigami and you hollow-fight the Bankai, and then the Quincy can't hold that Bankai anymore and it will return to its original owner. So you would think the wizards of all characters would have a huge advantage against the Quincy. Like, you would think that would be the first thing after finding out that Quincy can steal Bankai. You would think, okay, this is the time, come on wizards, put on the mask and kick some ass. Nope. The wizards in Soul Society never use the mask, and it's probably not because they can't, since we see Mashiro use her hollow mask. That they lose their hollow powers, apparently someone believes that. I talked to. It was never implied or shown, so if it were a rule that they mustn't use their a hollow mask, I think that would be totally stupid. And even if that was the case, I think uh, Shonsui would lift that restriction, so the Wizards can fight at full power, but apparently they don't. So they go to fight the Quincy again. The Wizards fight and turn into jobbers. And that's a major issue regarding the Wizards. Okay, we pretty much accepted that the Wizards did nothing important but give Ichigo a free power-up in the Arankal arc. In the Hegumundo arc they didn't do jack shit because they weren't involved, and in the fake Karakura town only Hachi was pretty much important because he actually defeated Espada. Or if you want to be generous, if you want to be generous, you could say Rose and Love just stalled Stark, so Shunsi's Shikai would stop being lazy and fight seriously. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And in the final arc, they do even less. I don't think they defeated a single Quincy. They didn't contribute anything to the plot. Oh yeah, I think a brainwash can they beat up one of the Sternritter, but that really didn't matter that much because at the point where that happened, all the Sternritter, lower class Sternritter were Forderoys. They were completely irrelevant. So the only ones that really mattered were Yuha himself and you would think the royal gods, but we will get to that. I'm drinking a cup of my water. So next characters that got shafted are the Fullbrings, and you may be wondering how some of you who actually read the manga, how that is possible, because they did actually contribute to the story. And I would say the Fullbrings weren't characters, they were plot devices. And this is coming to one of many issues of the final arc, and that is the pointless filler scenes that just exist to expand the story for longer than it should have been. Like, kinda like a fake out, such as Byakuya died. No, he didn't. So this happened quite a few times, and I will try to remember all of them. An example of such thing is when Urahara made a machine that would allow everyone to enter the Soul Palace, but they have to collect Reiatsu from a lot of Captain class Shinigami, so they pretty much filled the machine with the Reiatsu, but then Aizen came and destroyed the Reiatsu by trying to destroy bring down the Soul Palace with his Reiatsu. So they can't enter the Soul Palace anymore. But surprise, next chapter, Mayuri has a machine that can generate Reiatsu by itself, so they can't go there anyway. So what was the point of that scene? Anyways, that is one. And now I will go to the example regarding to the Fullbrings that's supposed to make them such important characters. So as you know, Tsukushima has the power to cut people, and when he does that, he can change their history, their past, so to speak. So Ichigo's Bankai got destroyed for the billionth of time, and immediately next chapter he gets stabbed. Who was it? It was Tsukushima. And now that he's stabbed, he changed his past to that his Zanpakuto was never broken to begin with. So now Oishime can heal his Bankai, which is kinda funny why she couldn't do that without that, but I guess we have to make the full ranks useful somehow. And why was Ginjo there? Ginjo was there to tell Tsukushima to fix Ichigo's Bankai. And now to the other full rings. So we have so many devices to travel to the Soul Palace. Wouldn't be how do we bring now Grimjo and Null to Soul Palace? I guess we let that one girl Ryuruku and Yokino, the little boy, use their powers to put them inside a hairpin, and Yuichi just carries that hairpin and puts it somewhere so they can come up to the Soul Palace. And yeah, I don't get why they were important, but yeah, that's the whole thing. Like, even if they fell off from the Soul Palace, they could have done the same things they did before. Use it, either that teleportation machine, use that other thing to go to the Soul Palace, or just let Kukaku shoot them to the sky. I think that's just a much faster way, but you get my point. Like, they didn't need to exist in this arc, which is why I call it filler, the entire point of them falling. Now, what else? Grimjo and Nell. Like, the Arankal were pretty much completely pointless in this arc, but they did something, so they weren't so irrelevant. And what was the contribution of the Arankals? So Grimjo's contribution was to help Urahara defeat one of the royal guards, which at the end didn't really matter for a reason I will tell you later, as Grimjo just existed to give the finishing blow. He didn't even fight really. He was knocked out immediately when he started to was about to fight, but that's pretty much it. And now didn't do jack shit that arc, but saved Urahara and Grimjo from being killed by that royal guard's attack. So we know they survived, but we don't see all that. So what else is left? I think there's also a plot hole in that arc regarding to how how that gift ball, gift prison or whatever is, and how it works. So, is there anything else? Oh yeah, there is, and that is Inoue, Chad, Ganju, and we will talk about someone else later. So what was the point of the other three main cast members? Yeah, apparently Oihime and Chad and Uyu are main cast members, main characters. So what did they do? So you would think Oihime is useful because she actually participated in the final arc, but if you think about it, Yuha was holding back the whole time, so that didn't really matter. Every time Oihime fights, like, there's always someone who can take her place in terms of powers. Like, I can't imagine that when it comes to platforms creating of kilo spells and something, I think uh, Yurichi definitely has a technique like that. I don't know why it wasn't used, but that's how it is, I guess. But but we have to make Oihime somewhat useful because she did fix Ichigo's Bankai, which she should be able to fix even without Tsukushima's help. But again, that's another fake out. What was the point of breaking the Bankai if it can be immediately fixed like that? Like, it wasn't even a the entire thing with breaking the Bankai and fixing it is just really annoying, because when Ichigo invaded, came back to fight Yuha couldn't break the Bankai again. Because why couldn't he destroy the Bankai if after it got fixed? But he could destroy it back then, and you could say now he has some good fortune, but I think that's just plot armor at this point, because Yuha's power is it's just so stupid. It shows that it was a big mistake to make a character as powerful as Yuha with this many abilities. Like, Aizen was already a big hurdle, and to defeat Aizen had to nerf himself so he can be defeated. Don't use your Shikai, don't use your Bankai, just use raw power, let your guard down. Yeah, Aizen nerfed himself pretty much. And then Kubo attempts to make a villain that has even more broken powers than Aizen. It will backfire, honestly. And it could have shows that one of the reasons many disliked the final arc at that point. So we have covered Oihime, whose power really didn't matter because Yuha could have done whatever he was pretty much holding back the whole time, so it seems like Oihime is useful with her barriers and immediate healing. Even her healing powers were irrelevant because Ichigo has high speed regeneration and Quincy powers that enhance his defenses to the point that Yuha shouldn't be able to damage him seriously. The next is obviously Chad and Ganju. So Ganju trained apparently with the Fullbring, so you would expect he has some twist, but all Ganju does is being pretty much a navigator and at the end just fight a stone monster we didn't see the fight with. We might see it in the final arc, but do you want to see a fight against a freaking rock monster? I wouldn't. And who is he fighting alongside with? Chad. What did Chad do the whole arc? I don't even remember. He also went to fight a giant rock monster. And like, it's at least, did Chad lose a fight? Yes, he did. He was always every time we saw him proceed to fight, he would be knocked out. He didn't do jack shit. So that's Chad for you. Nothing unusual. Even in the Fullbring arc, where you would expect him to be the most useful because of the lower power level, he was just a jobber. Next up are the Quincy's we knew prior to this arc, Uyu and Ryuken. They were also shafted. So what we got from Ryuken is that he was his backstory and how he becomes the man he is. But what the present Ryu can do in this arc, he just delivered an arrow to his son, which is a plot device that can temporarily shut down Yuha's powers. So pretty much he also got demoted to a plot device, but instead of being a plot device, he's just a delivery boy, like Krillin being the delivery boy for the senzu beans. So he, one of the strongest characters who we were anticipating to actually fight for once in a story arc and implied to have a stern-written tier power, he was demoted to Krillin level importance. He's just now just as important as the Wizards and Chad, only that he wasn't defeated in a humiliating way, or actually he didn't even fight, so that's the whole thing. And now to Uryu himself. So my problem with Uryu is he's not an uninteresting character, but Uryu didn't really do anything to affect the plot. So remember Soul Society, and when he fought Mayuri, and he was not really helping out in the long run to defeat, well, he doesn't need to defeat Byakuya, but his involvement in his fight really didn't matter in the long run of the Soul Society arc, just like how Chad's involvement didn't add much except maybe motivate Ichigo to defeat Kenpachi, or not to get worried that he gets defeated. In the long run, Uryu and Orihime and even Chad, Orihime and Uryu, they were less relevant in the Soul Society arcs than Hanataro and Ganju, who actually reached Rukia and were indirectly affected by the things happening and affecting the people in Soul Society and how things go on. Uryu just fought Mayuri, who was pretty much disconnected from the rescue mission of Rukia, and he was, after his defeat, he also was just completely uninvolved. As for the next arc, in the Arankar arc, he didn't do jack shit either, because well, I guess he allowed Orihime to reach Ichigo and cry out to him, so Ichigo turns into that weird hollow form to defeat Ulquiorra, but otherwise he didn't do anything of importance. The Privadon Espada fight was pretty much just filler. His fight against Sial Apollo didn't matter. Like, he didn't get anywhere near or anything, didn't do anything to help Ichigo to free Orihime. So he was pretty much a jobber in that arc. And finally the full brain arc, where you think the power level is so low that he would actually be useful, but even there he was immediately defeated off screen, and then he didn't even do anything to warn Ichigo or stop Tsukushima and Ginjo. So he was also just a side character who didn't even help in the fight against Ginjo, but just be another uh, spectator or someone who complains. But it's fine. There's no way in a Quincy arc a Quincy would be completely shafted, and you would be wrong. There was he like, oh man, he didn't do anything of importance in that arc. He, oh, if I can count a few things, that being stopping Ichigo from reaching him as he and Yuha invade the Soul Palace. Then I recall him shooting an arrow at Ichigo and the crew once as they were falling, and I guess then he spread some paper which got immediately exposed by Harshwald before we even knew what the hell was going on. We didn't even see him placing some paper, so it came pretty much out of nowhere. And his fight against Ichigo didn't really matter much because he immediately revealed he was just plodding while the enemy was near him, and then just ended up them fighting each other. And even the fight against Yukram or Harshwell didn't really matter at the end. Which, how is it possible that the fight against second in command ends up not mattering? And that is because the powers of the two were just whack, because obviously now that Uyu became a member of the Quincy army, he would get his letter awoken, and that these powers are just whack. Honestly, they don't just, like I said, they don't feel like interesting powers to use in fighting. Like, it's like no you powers. Like, I use a mirror, no, all your techniques are blocked. Like, this is just an example. They don't use such powers. It's just so stupid, and we don't even see them really fight much. I don't remember anything, but they're using their powers once, and now we come to the final reason why this arc was really annoying. But I say always the final, but there are so many things close to the end that ruin this arc that it just doesn't end there. So what happens is, at some point Yuha has just enough and just steals the power of all the Quincy's again, and Jugram or Harshwell just protects Uyu for no reason with his powers, so he gets killed. All the other Stone Ritters get killed that are still alive, except a few that had their powers stolen already and didn't get hit by the Heilig Ausspielen attack. Also, whatever, it's just stupid. So this makes all the fights against the royal guards and all the Espul abilities pointless. This, for example, when Stone Ritter X, when Kyoraku fought him, he was pretty much an immortal god. So how do you beat a god? Well, with a weapon that kills a god. Where do we get that? Oh, he was always carrying it with him, and it belongs to his vice captain's family. So it's her Sampaktul, and she doesn't have a Sampaktul apparently on her own. She's just fighting with Kido and has no skills to get a real Sampaktul through an Otsutsuchi or whatever it's called. Which is funny because Kubo has drawn her with a Sanpakuto in a few panels, in a few images, not a panel. So you would expect she has a Sanpakuto, but just doesn't always carry it around. So that's a plot device. A god killing weapon just introduced when a god got introduced. And would have been handy against Yua, but apparently we just use it against one of his underlings, which would have been killed anyways after Ichigo fought him and got his power stolen. So yeah, Ichigo got his power stolen as well for the zillionth of time. Not all, just his Hollow and Quincy powers for some reason. How that works, don't ask me. I don't I don't get it either. So, and what next? So that's but really convenient. And so it was also a way to get rid of the Miracle Gerald Valkyrie. So the fight against Gerald showed another thing that bothered me about the final arc, and that is the favoritism of 4 specific characters. The first one is Byakuya, obviously. Byakuya, now we can go to the thing that was a mistake not to kill off Byakuya, is after he was defeated, he was brought to the Soul Palace and got like insanely strong, to the point that his Shikai is as powerful as his Bankai at previously. So Rukia was fighting the Stern Ritter that stole Byakuya's Bankai previously, and then he steps in to just ruin the moment for Rukia to get he pretty much steals the show by breaking a technique of Ass Knot. So what happens is he talks a bit and then just turns his back against the enemy, telling that Rukia can handle it himself. So what was the point to interfere? Just to give her a small talk. Really, it seems cute, but I feel it did more damage to Rukia than it really helped. So obviously Rukia handled it herself later, but what happens next is Byakuya just fights 5 Stern Ritter and almost beats them without releasing his Bankai. That's just stupid. And later remember when Byakuya, when he fought Ichigo, he wouldn't let all his swords wouldn't rain down, so he doesn't need to worry about that. But when he fought Valkyrie, he was able to do just that. That even in Senkei, all his swords would rain down on the enemy. So he got a massive power boost. He jumped in power so hard that he pulverized several Stern Ritter, about 5, which one of them gave Kyoraku a hard time, and then you have finally learning a new technique, or it was a secret technique, so maybe he always had it but he never revealed it, because that would be the technique where you have a bunch of swords already around you and you can't apparently use them, but now you can. That being a secret technique, that's kinda weird. So that is not only the plot armor of Byakuya, but the massive Byakuya favoritism in this arc. Then the next character we have is obviously Kenpachi, and many will say Kenpachi, how considering how he was treated the entirety of this arc. But there was a massive favoritism as we see his backstory, that he was always holding back so massively that he is weaker than he is weaker in the main story than he was back as a child, and now he has to find that power again, and then he gets a Shikai that can defeat a guy that can imagine anything, but then again that guy that can imagine anything couldn't imagine himself winning, so we can ignore that. And then, as if that isn't enough, he gets a freaking Bankai. Oh, Bankai. The guy, he didn't, how? It's just, it feels like fan fiction at this point. You can't tell me that isn't. Yeah, it's cool, but remember the memes back then, Bankai, that's for the weak. Yeah, I remember Pepperidge remembers too. Who would have thought that we see Kenpachi's Bankai before we see Aizen use Bankai? It's just a meme. And next we have Mayuri. Mayuri got ranked this arc really hard. It's like, I guess it's Kubo's favorite characters. Someone said started as a psychopath, becoming such a key player in this arc. Like, he found a way to revert Jazel's techniques, zombification. He was able to find a counter to almost any attack from the Quincy's, like that exploding girl who lost to Kumamura of all people. And what else? Like, he modified his Bankai to the point that it can just become, he can just counter anything, and the only reason it didn't work out because he fought a god, and that god lost to another invention he always had, but we never knew that was that kind of invention. Like, her voice captain is a plot device now. Oh man. And what else do we have? I think that's pretty much it. He made a healing chamber that if you store someone inside, that character gets completely healed. With that way he healed Rangiku, Toshiro, and Kenpachi. Kenpachi was already lost immediately, lost an arm, and almost got defeated by one of the god he was fighting. So, and he got immediately healed by Mayuri through Mayuri's chamber as he was fighting against that royal god. Now this is the ranking Mayuri god, and I'm just going through the surface. And finally, and obviously, the Japanese fan favorite character Toshiro. You can't have an arc without Toshiro appearing and doing new techniques or getting ranked. So in the first invasion, obviously, he almost lost. He lost his Bankai, so that's a thing. And in the second invasion he teamed up with Rangiku and still lost to Basby. So everything fine and usual for Toshiro. But then that Bankai getting back peel that holifies him, he beats the crap out of the Stern Ritter, who has the most wrecked powers, which is just giving him the ability to make his skin out of iron, which is pointless because he has Blood Vein, which already can even block attacks from Yuha. So what's the point? So what is left is, so he was drained, and because he was drained he fell unconscious. That gave the zombie Stern Ritter the ability to brainwash him. So he came back as a zombie and beat the crap out of pretty much everyone. So, and the only way he lost is against Mayuri, obviously, because Mayuri is the plot device. Like, I can't count how many chapters ended with Toshiro appearing as a badass, even if he was a villain for a short while. Another example is when he appeared to aid in the fight against Valkyrie, and he was doing pretty well, despite the guy being above Rangy and Byakuya level with the this after Soul Palace training. Remember, Byakuya beat up 5 Stern Ritter with ease. Ichigo, obviously much stronger, beat up like 8 Stern Ritter with pretty much ease. Now you have Toshiro able to dodge blows. Yeah, he wasn't stronger than Valkyrie, but he was pretty much he was really doing insanely well. Meanwhile, the Vizards who came to assist and that used the Hollow Mask were one-shotted by Valkyrie. Not killed, just one-shotted off-screen. Pathetic. And now the twist that pissed a lot of people off and fangirls probably loves to hell, which is when the last paddle from Hitsugai's Bankai breaks, the Bankai doesn't end. It actually shows its true potential, which is Toshiro turns into an adult and his Bankai is insanely broken. And he performs some insane feats again. So when he uses Bankai, when he's Bankai as his limit, the limit gets broken and he gets insanely strong. Just stupid. So this is the ranking these characters got. So, like I said, Arankals got shafted, Fullbrinks are plot devices, got shafted, Uyu gets shafted, is also a plot device. The only thing that he did at the end is use the delivery boy Ryuken's silver arrow and throw it against Yuha, temporarily nullifying his attack. That's the whole point of Uyu's accomplishment, using a weapon that his father gave him, which he could have used himself but didn't. Though it's still a plot device. So he did affect the plot, but it felt scripted, artificial, not like something tangible, so to speak. He didn't fight the good guys. There was no moment where it felt like he was even close to stopping Yuha. He didn't really do anything internally which we saw on screen. It was told to us by someone like Jugram directly, like that paper stuff we didn't see. Up to the point it was mentioned, we didn't see infighting between the Stern Ritters. There was, well, in regards to Uryu never got involved in the fight. So there was a lot that bothered me regarding Uryu. And I'm not going to get to the ending of Bleach itself, where Yuha apparently is about to reawaken and the son of Ichigo, because Ichigo is now married to Orihime, just grabs it and squashes it. Like, what the fuck was that? So I honestly can't see why people are hyping this arc as they do. I don't know if I want to add some visuals, would be nice, but I will think about it as I edit this video. I'm just recording the audio file as of right now. I hope you kinda get where I'm coming from. And I'm not telling you not to watch this arc. You can watch whatever you want. You can watch Rainbow Super for all I care. But I want to make it clear that this arc isn't great at all. It has its good moments, obviously, but there's a reason why people made fun of this arc so hard, and when it was over, it was quickly dismissed, and people assumed that Kubo was cancelled or something, even after the real reason was told. Well, at least the real reason according to Kubo, and yeah, you know, people were still waiting for that animated final arc, obviously, because we wanna see some damn bunkers, god damn it. But that's pretty much it. Hope you enjoyed this video, and we see each other next time.
I want to see some damn Bankais, goddammit.